Hey, que Pasa Calexico? Welcome back to the podcast. Before we begin today, like always, I want to thank my sponsors, my homies from Los Pichos, Jake, Sergio, and Jonathan. Also, I want to thank David Gastelum. If you're thinking of buying or selling a home in the Imperial or San Diego counties, make sure you contact David Gastelum. His phone number is 760-235-9576. He's not only a realtor, but he's an investor, and he's got over 20 years of experience. So he'll help you along the way in one of your most important investments in your life. Also want to thank my friends at Calexico Brewing Company. It kind of feels good to be back here. Haven't done one here in a while. So thank you to them to letting me record today's episode here. They have their beer at Dogwood Bar. So in case you ever felt like pouring your own Calexico Brewing Company beer, you can head over to Dogwood Bar and get that at the self-service tab they have there. And today's guest, if you haven't heard of him, he's a really well-known, I guess you can say, commentator / creator from the Valley, Marco Antonio Peralta. He's the host of the Alta.
Yeah, the aspiring one. So just trying to accomplish my dream. That's pretty much it.
So normally when I have a guest, we start by my guests telling me a little bit about themselves. Can you tell us a little bit about who you are and just I guess from the beginning, like you grew up here in the Valley and all that.
Yeah, so I grew up in El Centro. Unfortunately, I'm 20 right now, so me and the brewing company here, like I see like the beers and like just out of curiosity how they taste, because it's a local thing and you gotta support local things. But I grew up in El Centro, but like I told you before we started recording this, is that I basically had Calexico as my second home because my whole family was here. There was at one point it was me, my mom, and my dad and my sister that were in El Centro only. Now one of my aunts is here now, but two of my aunts, they lived here with my grandma. My cousins were over here, so I would come to Calexico a lot. So I have my history in Calexico. It's basically, like I said, it's like kind of my second home.
Oh, okay.
So yeah.
So you went to school at Southwest or Central?
I went to Central. All my family went to Central except one of my cousins, and literally my two cousins that live here that lived here in Calexico, they went to Central, and my sister went to Central, my aunt went to Central, and I was like, I want to go to Central, But besides where I live, it's an automatic thing that you're gonna go to Central. I live at the trailer park that's right next to Ross and 111, so it's called KOA. That's how people know it. But yeah, like that's where I went to high school. There was a point I almost became a Bulldog, but I was like, you know what? Nah, like, not with no disrespect to Calexico, but like my family went to Central, so I want to be a Spartan too. So yeah.
Like you said, you're inspiring commentator. Was this something that you picked up as a kid, or?
Well, when I was growing up,
I mean, not that you're old, you're super young. Yeah. So.
Well, when I was a kid, I played soccer. Before soccer, I played baseball. Baseball was my first sport. But when I was playing soccer, I was like, you know what, I want to play soccer because I love it. I still love it. It's my passion. But then I played when I was a kid. I played in the Heber League. Then I played here in Calexico. When I was in high school, I played high school soccer too. I only played varsity when I was on there. And but then like when I was going into senior year, I had a little bit of a struggle. My senior year was not pretty good as I wanted it to be. So I didn't finish out the season my senior year. And I was like, you know what? Soccer, I don't think is going to be my career, right? But ever since I was little, I saw that I'm a big sports guy, so I would look at the games. I watch a lot of Mexican league soccer. Like I'm a rojiblanco, if everyone knows that. It's Chivas de Guadalajara, and I just grew up watching the Clásicos, watching all the games. And the thing that would always catch my attention was the commentators, like how they would get so excited for a certain play or a certain goal, and I was like, yeah, it's pretty cool. But I would say I want to be a sports broadcaster, commentator when I was a kid, as a backup plan, because I wanted to be a soccer player. And then when I said, you know what, I don't want to pursue soccer no more. And there was a point that I said, you know what, I'm going to try this commentating thing, or they just analyst broadcasting thing, this gig. And it started back in my junior year in high school when I got the opportunity. It was at 953 The Edge. It's a local Christian radio station over there in El Centro. And it's funny how small the world is, because I went to Meadows for my middle school, kindergarten, stuff like that. So my yard duty teacher is Victor Nuno. And Victor Nuno, he is the station director at 953 The Edge. And I was like, oh, shoot, that's pretty cool. So when I went to go tell him, like, hey, I heard there's a sports show here. Is it possible to just try it out, just to learn? And he was like, yeah, just get an application, apply for it, and we'll let you know. So I got the application and I turned it in. And a week later, I was interviewed and I got the internship. And a week after I got the internship, I was on the air talking about soccer and sports with two of the co-hosts that were at that point. It was Calvin Olivas and Frankie Thomas. They were welcoming me to the show, even though they were doing it for like 2 years at that point. So, but yeah, it's ever since then, it's been a great ride. It's been a great ride.
Talking about Calvin Olivas, he's a podcaster from the Valley as well. You were part of the Calvin Olivas show for a while? Or?
I was part of before it was called Sports on the Edge. I was there for like 2 months. And then Frankie had to go he had to go coach football. So it was just me and Calvin, and we had a show called Zone to Zone. And that's like when I first started the ropes. And he's a big football guy, like American football. I'm not a big American football guy at the time. That I didn't know a lot about the sport, so I kind of had my struggle with it. But I was still learning the ropes on how to do this, how to do that. So, yeah, me and him worked for a while, but then I had to drift off because of soccer. So I had to go play the season, and then after that, he still continued to do it for a little bit. But then Victor said, hey, that we have to like put it on the shelf. And he decided like, oh, since I'm not going to be on the air no more, I'm going to go do the podcast. I did a couple podcasts with him when he first started. So, yeah, we're pretty good buds. We're pretty good friends. And he's been a great help for me getting into the business and just getting my start in it too. And
now, I know you were working at, is it KXO or?
Yeah.
So,
I still work at KXO, and it was pretty funny because when I graduated from high school in 2017, I was confused of what I was going to do with my life, because that internship that I had at 953 was over because it was only for high school interns, like high school students. And I was like, you know what? Dang, what am I going to do? Like, I was just struggling, like, of what am I going to do with my life, because I was like, I don't know what to do next. So this was something pretty cool. I'm a big believer in my Lord Jesus Christ. Like I follow the Bible and stuff like that. He's been a very key point in my life so far. So there was one point, I'm a big, like I said, I'm a big baseball guy too. So my team is the LA Dodgers, right? And whoever doesn't know Vince Scully, I don't know if you've been living under a rock or something, but Vince Scully was about to retire. He retired in 2016, and there was this new guy that came into town. His name was Joe Davis. I didn't know who he was until the summer of when I graduated high school. And then I just said, you know what? If I really want to get into this business, I'm just going to reach out to him and ask him for advice, ask him for some tips. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to do it. So I sent him a message. I prayed about it. I was like, God, if this is your will for me in my life, and just if it's my purpose to worship you and glorify you, then let your will be done. And then I just prayed about it. It was during the afternoon when I sent the message. So the very next morning, I wake up and I see his message saying, hey, send me an email and we'll talk. I was like, dude, that's so amazing. So we had a phone call back in July of 2017 for like half an hour. I asked him his story. I just asked him how he got into the business, how he wanted to pursue this career. And after I had that phone call, something like inside me ignited. I was like, wow, I feel like this is possible, because I got to meet a big name in the industry. He's 30 years old, if I'm not mistaken, or 31. So he's pretty young too. And I was like, wow, I was able to make a contact with him, and he was able to give me the advice I was seeking for. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to take this advice and put it into work. So I remember right after the phone call, I had that moment of like, I'm going to pursue this. So after that moment, I decided, you know what? I'm going to go find internships, jobs at any local radio stations that are here. And there's not many, but like the ones that they are, I'm going to try to get something at it. So The very first place I went to was KXO, and I knew KXO because my dad likes a lot of oldie stuff, and since my dad was in Mexicali when I was younger, because he had some legal paper issues, I would go visit him, and he would always listen to KXO, and I was like, I know this station. So I went there and I asked, hey, by any chance, is there any internships or any like job openings that you guys have? And the lady that was at the front desk, her name is Becky Alanis. Shout out to Becky. She was like, oh, we have an opening actually. I was like, really? And she was like, yeah, you want an application? I was like, heck yeah. So I got it. It was like around 3:00, I think it was. And the office closed at 5. So I got the application, filled it out that same day, and I rushed over to the office and turned it in that same day to show like I wanted to do it.
Yeah.
So a week after I turned in the application, I went to the office again to say, hey, by any chance, do you guys know the status of my application? And fortunately enough was Carol Buckley, who was my boss, the one that I told him like, hey, you know the status of my application or anything like that? And he wrote down my name, and I was like, okay, I'll give it an overview. And he gave me an overview. He was like, hey, he gave me a call like, hey, would you be interested in coming down for an interview? And I was like, yeah, of course. Heck yeah. So I did the interview, and a week later said like, oh, I want to offer you the part-time job. I was like, yo, that's so amazing. So that was my very first job ever.
Oh, really?
And it's been a blessing without a doubt being there. And I'm on my way out already. And I just want to give thanks to all the support and all like the mentorship they've all been giving me. Gene Brister, Carol Buckley, Tracy Lyon Ramirez, Gabe Lemus, and Becky Alanis, and Jared Anchando have just been like family because they've been there since I started into this business.
Yeah, and what were some of the things that you did there?
So there, I was basically an on-air personality, part-time on-call. So whenever someone was sick or Carol wanted to give someone the day off, he would give me a call like, hey, you're scheduled for this day. I would be on the air just doing border weight updates, weather updates, or just basically whatever I wanted. You know, I would work both sides, AM and FM, and I would record commercials sometimes. So basically, it was a lot of on-air personality duties. So it was pretty fun.
Oh, that's cool.
The thing that sucked though is that since, you know, like you said, I'm pretty young, that I didn't know a lot of the music because it's an oldie station.
Yeah.
But there were some songs that I knew of, like I knew a little bit about Santana, I knew a little bit about Queen, Benny King, and so yeah, that was a little bit of a struggle because every staff meeting they say, move the music around so it flows. And in my head, I was like, I don't know the music. We have so much music. I don't know every single one of them.
Yeah.
But every time I would like be in the zone, like and doing like the board, and I would listen to a song like, yeah, this is pretty catchy. I like it. But as soon as I got off the office, I forgot what the name of the song. So that was a bit of a struggle.
Yeah, I listened to a lot of oldies. That's because when I was growing up, we still had a lot of cholos. You know?
Yeah.
So a lot of my friends, you know, and many of us that were cholo wannabe, so we used to listen to oldies because oldies are like, you know, the soundtrack to, you know,
to all the cholo drive-ins and stuff like that. Yeah, I get you.
So even right now, when I was driving over here, I was listening to some Brenton Wood. Yeah.
Yeah, like I remember the very first song that I played when I was like on my first day that I was curious if they had it was Tequila.
Oh, okay.
The reason being is because like a big reason why I'm a baseball guy is because of the Sandlot.
Oh,
you know,
okay.
because I grew up watching the Sandlot, and I always pretend to be Benny the Jet Rodriguez, and Tequila was part of that scene where all the kids throw up, and I was like, that music just stayed in my head because it's pretty catchy if you ask anyone.
It's crazy because when you said Tequila, have you ever heard of Pee Wee Herman?
No, maybe I've heard of it. I just don't know the artist or the name.
Well, Pee Wee Herman, it's a character. He used to have a kids show.
Okay.
Back in like the 80s, and then from there he made I think it was a couple movies that he made, and in one of them that song came. One of the movies he made, he goes into this biker bar, and I guess he made somebody mad, or he was trying to get money. I can't remember what it was, but he put on the song, and then he put on these really high heels. So he started dancing that song. It's a classic. You need to look it up. So then you started working there, and then you went to IVC, right? You started going to IVC. And IVC, you started well, I mean, you didn't start it, but you began to be part of the is it communication?
The comm club. Well, I started IVC as soon as I graduated from high school. I was like, you know what? Since I knew what I wanted to do, I was like, you know what? I gotta get the advice that Joe gave me and just go get my degree. And summer of 2017, I took my first comm classes. They were a lot of fun. My first professor was Bruce Page, and I love that guy to death. He's just been a blessing too to my life. And as soon as I got to IVC, I was focusing on school and just work. Basically, that's pretty much it. But actually, my second year at IVC is when I started getting into the comm club, because when my first year there at IVC, it was very disorganized, so I didn't know what was going on. So my second year, I was like, you know what? I'm gonna try it again. I'm gonna get in the club. And I even told Mr. Marquez, because he was my professor and he was the advisor for it. And I was like, you know what? I want to run for president. And he was like, okay, if you want to do it, go for it. He said I would do a good job, and he said, go for it. And I'm like, okay, I'm gonna run for president. And thankfully so, I did get the president role in the club. And when we were there, we were trying to help out with doing podcasts, fundraising, just making aware of how there's comm people in IVC that want to get the experience, they want to get the practice. So we're trying to do podcasts. We have our annual comm night, which was pretty fun. I shared my personal success story. Oh, that's how they call my story, the success story. But it's just me just trying to pursue my dream and accomplish my dream. But it's just people just sharing their life stories, because our theme this year was transformation. It talked about one scenario that changed you or transformed you to be the person you are today. And I use a lot of the story about my father, because my father's currently going through cancer, and it was right when I was in high school. So that was a very tough point in my life. He's still alive today. Thank God that he still is. And ever since God got into my life because of what was happening with my dad, God has blessed me with what I've been saying about the sports broadcasting business. So that's why Dad is a very important key in my life. And more importantly, God has been another very important part of my life too.
And what are some of the things that because I know that while you were part of the comm club, you guys started or you were trying to get together a podcast or a radio station studio. And
there is a radio station now at IVC. It's 89.9 Radio Bilingüe, and my coworker, actually, I forgot to mention his name. My coworker Mario Espinosa, he is a station director for that thing. But we've been a little bit off with it right now, because we're trying to make sure that everything's set in order and that we get the opportunity for the kids to get on the air and stuff like that. So it's a work in progress, but the good thing about it is that it's there.
Yeah.
Because I remember my first year at IVC, in my spring semester, I had Mr. Marquez, like I said, he was my professor, and we had a project of making start a small business, right? And I said, you know what? I'm gonna say, we had a radio station here, right? And I just said, we could do this, we could do that. This is the benefit of having a radio station here at IVC. People that like music, they could practice their music or just expose their music on the air, or people that just want to be on their personalities and just practice being on air and stuff like that. And I remember Mr. Marquez said that when I finished my presentation, he took that PowerPoint, that proposal, and gave it to the president of IVC. And that proposal was given out throughout the board, and next thing you know, the following year in the fall semester, there was plans of having the radio station at IVC, and that's where it all started. So I don't want to say I'm responsible for it, but it kind of makes me feel like I had to play some part in it. So I'm just glad that the opportunity is there, because the thing that people need to realize, that even though I'm pursuing my dream, I love to help other people. I want people to get the opportunities that people in bigger cities have. Here there's not many opportunities in broadcasting. You go to San Diego, there's 100 different radio stations, and here there's at most, I'm gonna say not most, but just a guess, 5 stations here in the valley that you know of and people listen to. And for a school to get that, I think it's very good, because that's some good experience that they could put on their resume for when they transfer out to the university. If it's SDSU, San Diego, LA, Arizona, like me, they have that shown on their resume that they've been part of it before, and that it could show that they're serious about the job and that they're trying to get better at their craft and actually make something of their lives with it.
Yeah, because a lot of the times you finish school or whatnot, and you don't have that experience. A lot of people don't get a certain job because they don't have that experience. So even having that college radio station, it's something, because it's not easy, being on the air. like for me, like I get ready, you know, I try to be ready so that there's not a lot of like dead space when you're talking, like to keep a conversation flowing, especially if it's like a talk radio show. But yeah, like putting yourself out there, like making sure that, you know, you like how you sound, like all these things that go into broadcasting. That
like one of the things I always told Joe when I went to go meet him in Pasadena one time when we had a cup of coffee about a year ago. I told him, you know, what'd you do to get your voice? Like, did you work on it or anything like that? Because I always told him, like, I feel like my voice, I won't say it's not meant for broadcasting, but when I would listen to myself, I felt like my voice was very high pitched. I was like, how'd you get your voice deeper, and how'd you like so you can have that memorable call? And he was like, oh, read this book, try this exercise, try this exercise, and I think it's helped. Like I tried to have like a deeper voice, but still be able to have a conversation, but it takes a lot of practice, you know. Some people are just born with it, some people work for it, but it's not easy.
So there is like stuff out there that you can, you know, read and do that.
Oh yeah, absolutely. There's different ways that you could practice how you pronounce your things, how do you are able to talk clearer, and at the same time how to breathe, because that's a big important thing about talking on the radio, on TV, or whatever it is, remembering to breathe, because when you're like talking and you're not breathing, you're gasping for air and you don't feel comfortable, because it's an awkward little second, because you hear the you know, that's not cool. So when you're talking, you have to remember like breathe through your nose, and like just try to do like multitask, like breathing through your nose, not just hold your breath and start talking. Like breathe a little bit and like make sure that your oxygen is going through your system, so you're able to speak continuously without having that big gasp for air. So yeah.
But what about like for the way you sound? Like, is there anything that you've done that kind of?
It's hard. It's hard to explain it, because like, okay, I'm gonna talk like in my regular voice. This is my regular voice that I see on the street. I'm say, hey, what's up, dude? How you doing? But now I'm gonna say my broadcasting voice. Like I drop it as much as I can, and try to still be loud with it. You know, if I scream, I try to make it as deep as I can, but also be as loud so that people can hear me. You know, like when I talk to like on the street, I'm just chill. I'm like, hey, what's up, dude? How you doing? But when I'm on the air, I change completely how I sound, because it's a whole different voice that you have to pronounce.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, and like you said, some people are just born with it. Last week I interviewed Devin Apodaca from the Humane Society, and that guy has when I was editing the podcast, I was like, man, this guy has a radio voice. Like, it's really
it's so funny. Like every time I go like to Starbucks, or I go to school or to work, or I'm just hanging out with my friends somewhere, and I hear someone talking over my ear, and I'm like, yo, I like your voice, dog. Like you have a voice for radio. That'd be cool if you had me, if you'd be on the show with me or something like that. It would have been cool.
But yeah. Tell us a little bit about the Alta.
The Alta, I started it before it was the Alta. I did a sports talk show on my personal Facebook, because since I told you that the sports thing at 953 was over, I was like, there's no sports broadcasting opportunities here. The only thing I had was KXO, and they would do the high school games. But it was pretty hard to get into that broadcasting team, because Carol Buckley and John Driftwell, they've been doing it for over 30 years, you know? So I would join them sometimes for the pre-games, but they were basically the main guys. And I was like, I want to do something, because I need to get better at what I want to do, or just get some practice, you know? So I remember I got my phone and I just put it in front of me, and I just started going. I did a live on my personal Facebook. And it was funny that one time where I cut my hair at Zavala's Barbershop, shout out to Albert, who is he's been a good support and a big important piece in my career as well. So I told him, hey, you want to be on my show, talk about the Raiders, because he's a big Raider guy. I'm a Charger guy. So like, hey, you want to talk about football? And he's like, yeah, for sure. So we met up at the barbershop, and we did it for a little bit, and he said, hey, it's pretty cool, it's pretty fun. And then Albert told me, hey, I know this guy that comes in, he's a big sports fanatic. And I was like, oh, okay, you mind introducing him to me, or let me get his contact info or anything like that? And his name was Guillermo Ureña, but they call him Gil. And he's a big sports guy. And he said, hey, have him on or something like that. So we met up one time to do a sports show. And I liked how we were working together, how we get along. And he knew his stuff too, and I knew my stuff. You know, I was like learning the ropes of hosting a show, creating the content, stuff like that. I liked how we worked, and I was like, hey, you want to be my co-host? And he was like, yeah, for sure, brother. And I think one of the great things of how we got to work together very well is because he told me that he wanted to do this when he was younger. He wanted to be a commentator too, like a sports talk show. And I feel like, wow, I think this is pretty good that I learned from him, but at the same time, he's able to like
kind of like
do something that he wanted to do.
Yeah, kind of like a bucket list.
Yeah, so it was a win-win situation. So like he does what he wants to do, and at the same time, I'm learning what he's doing because he's older than me. So he's experienced a whole lot of more stuff. Like he's heard Jim Rome, he's heard a lot of other sportscasters, and he told me, hey, do this, do that. So Gil has been another blessing in my life, and he's been a great mentor for me. Even though he says he's not a mentor because he's not in the business, but I see him as a life mentor because he's been like a father figure too. Even though he's 10 years older, no, 18 years older than me, so 20 years older than me. That he's just been a life mentor for me.
So
and
what?
I give him thanks.
The name, the Alta, where does it come from? Or
So I wanted to call it the Gap Show because as you can see, I have gaps between my two front teeth, and I was like, I'm gonna call it the Gap Show, and then I was like, nah, I don't like that after all. So I was driving home, and then I was just thinking of a name because I had a guest called Benny Carter Martin. He's a head baseball coach at Holtville. He's like, it's gonna come to you. It's gonna come to you, man. It's gonna come to you. I was like, all right, shoot, okay, all right then. So I was driving home, going to the trailer park, and I said Alta. I was like, huh. And I don't know if you know Colin Cowherd. He has the herd with Colin Cowherd, and the herd is his last name. And I was like, Alta. And I was like, the Alta. And I was like, hey, you know what? I think this is cool. This is all right. It's pretty catchy. And asked Gil, like, hey, like, how does it sound? Like the Alta? Sounds good. And like people just started accepting, like, oh, you're the Alta. And like sometimes with people that know who I am and they see my shows, they're like, hey, you're the Alta guy. And I was like, no, well, it is me, but name's Marco, but I'm the Alta guy. And I'm like, oh, okay, so yeah, the Alta comes like from my last name.
It's from Peralta, yeah.
It's from Peralta, the last 4 letters of my last name.
But what about the? Why is it two?
It's funny because I said THE, it's like the, but I didn't like how the Alta sounded. And people pronounce the differently, like the or the. But I was like, you know what? I want to be different. You know, like I'm gonna add another E just for fun. And I was like, the Alta. Some people give me they mess with me saying, oh, you misspelled it on purpose, or like, no, you misspelled it. You don't know your English. I was like, say what you want, bro. That's why I wanted to do it. And like people have liked it so far. You know, like they know who I am. They follow the page. They follow my shows and stuff like that. So I haven't had any complaints about it. You know.
So the premise of your podcast or show is, would you call it a podcast or?
Well, it's a visual live show. I try to do it as weekly. I try because it was pretty hard because I was going to school, going to work, and I had to schedule the people. Yeah. So it was pretty tough because I was a full-time student ever since I was at IVC. So it was a pretty complicated, but it's a 1 hour live Facebook live show, and I will get athletes or coaches and just interview them and ask them, hey, what's your background? Can you share with us your goals and stuff like that, and just so people get to know who behind the plate or who's at first base, who's the corner in the backfield in the football game, who's the goalkeeper in the soccer field, so they know who they are, because a lot of people, even in the professional level, they don't remember that they're humans too. Everyone has a story, you know, and like it's nice to get to know who the person behind the jersey and get to know how they were upbringing in the sport that they're playing in. So yeah.
This year's been really, you know, a lot of positive things that have been going on in, you know, in terms of your career, because, you know, you got accepted to school. You're going to be going to ESPN next week. But before that, you know, you've been able to be part of the, I guess, like the media here in the Valley, because I saw you were at the Andy Ruiz press conference. You know, you've been able to do all these things.
Yeah, like every time I go somewhere and I tell them, hey, I'm just a young guy going through college. I'm just trying to get into the business. I'm just trying to get as much practice, experience as I can. Some people say, yeah, come through. We'll help you out. Or some people just said, no, you know what? Like one time, no disrespect for Brawley. One time I went to go get an interview for one of the coaches there, and I tried like, hey, I'm just a young guy trying to get into the business. I'm not gonna expose you to Central, Calexico, Southwest, Imperial, and like get your schemes and send them. No, that's not what I'm about. So I tried getting him for an interview, and he was like, you know what, I can't do it because I don't know who you're working for. Like, I don't want you to be exposing us. And I was like, okay, my bad. I'm sorry. Here's my card. Check out the page if you want. If you're interested, give me a call. I'll be here. I'm willing to do it. But yeah, it was funny when that happened. I was like, man, like, I'm not trying to expose you because, like I said, I'm a Spartan because I graduated. But at the same time, we're all Valley people.
Yeah.
You know, like every time when I leave, yes, I'm gonna say I'm from El Centro, but I see the whole Valley as one whole big community because I grew up in Calexico, El Centro, Imperial. I would go everywhere in that, and Brawley too. So I just see it as one whole big city, even though it's a county, you know. And that's why I'm like, you know what? I love the Valley.
Yeah, I used to get. Sometimes I still get it where like people are like, well, who are you, or like, why would you want to talk to me, or like,
why me, like, or what do you want from me? You know, you want something. If you're asking for me, you want something in return. You know? A lot of people get like that.
People think that, you know, there's always that gimmick where like you want to, but yeah, like that's what I tell them. Like, you know what, listen to one of my shows. That way you'll see what I talk about, and it's mainly like exposing the people who are in the Valley that, you know, are doing good or positive things. Now that you've like part of the media, because I know when I watch your show, you have the Ivy Presses.
That's a partnership that I was able to get with one of my classmates. His name is Mario Renteria. He's a guy that was part of the Ivy Press, and he would follow my show. Like, he would see it and he knew what I wanted to do. And I was like, hey, because he would be at the Friday night light football games at the high school level, and I was seeing like he was with the Ivy Press, doing all the producing, all that kind of stuff. And I was like, hey, bro, you mind doing my show one time? Because he has all the equipment that is required to make a show. And he was like, yeah, let me talk to Alexis, who is the manager at Ivy Press, and let's see if we could work out something. So we talked and we sent emails to each other. It's like, yeah, we'll let you use the equipment and you could just use the Ivy Press as a sponsor. So I was like, you know what, that's pretty cool. You know, like I would get the Ivy Press, use their equipment, and just take it a little bit to the next level on the production. And that way I could focus a little bit more on the show, because before Mario, I was the one doing everything. Like all this equipment, I bought it out of my own pocket, like the tripod, a little camera, the little microphones that I would afford. It was all out of my pocket. And now with Mario, that he has 3 iPhones, and he's using them as different camera angles, and he has the microphones, the shotgun microphones, and I'm like, man, this is pretty cool. I can focus on my own thing now, you know.
I mean, like, even for me, like when I do this, it's like, you know, you want to put out the best production, so you want like the best, but like when it comes out of your pocket, you're like,
it's tough because things aren't cheap. When it's like broadcasting, it's not cheap at all. Like, even a microphone that I had, the little lavaliers, the cheapest one I found was like $30, you know, and I had some stuff I had to do and I had to handle, and I was like, dang, like $30.
I mean, I've been lucky and I've been able to find like this mic. I mean, it's not the best mic, it does the job. It cost me like $20, $30. No, I think this one I paid like $15. That one is a little bit more expensive and that's the one I try to give the guests, that way that, you know, they have a better
nicely,
and that one was a little bit pricier, like 100 and something.
Like, it's broadcasting gear is not cheap.
And even though it's not like a podcasting mic, it's a shotgun mic, but I like it because it's really sensitive and you know, picks up really good.
It's a condenser mic, right? Condenser mics are pretty good, no matter which one it is, you know, because it picks up everything clearly and it sounds nice.
So how was the Andy Ruiz press conference?
It was pretty cool. The way I got in there, I currently go to Christ Community Church in El Centro, and one of the pastors there is Jose Luis Avalos, and Jose Luis was a public relations guy for Andy Ruiz, and we started to talk to each other, getting along, and he was basically the one that got me into the press conference. So I was able to go to the press conference. That's where I met David Faltelson and stuff like that. But it was pretty cool. Like when I met him, like I tried to get him on my show. Like, hey, it's a local guy. I'm just trying to get into the business. La Valley wants to hear you, you know? Like, they want to know who you really are and stuff like that. And I know there's other companies, like ESPN, DAZN, and Jimmy Kimmel that are bigger than me that are going to have the priority. But like, I'm still hoping that one day, even when I leave, I get him on the show one day.
Yeah, I sent him a message too, like, hey, what's up, dude? Like,
it's tough because like his followers on Instagram when like before the fight against Anthony Joshua was at 16,000, and post the fight it was like 800,000. I was like, dang, now it's gonna get really tough to get to talk to him.
Yeah, for sure.
But I got to know his cousins Fidel and Ralph Ponce. They're pretty cool. They're cool guys. They're successful people, and they've been pretty cool. I think Fidel is gonna be one of my hosts in the next week, but we're still in the talks about it. But hopefully one day Andy's able to join the show.
Yeah, that'll be fun.
Yeah, it'll be cool.
So next week you're going to ESPN, or?
Yeah, I'm flying over to Bristol, Connecticut, and those who don't know Bristol, that's where the ESPN headquarters are at. I'm not gonna leave this Tuesday, but the following Tuesday on the 16th, I'm gonna be there for a week at Bristol, because I have like 3 mentors at ESPN that I met, and then I take a bus to New York City to go to the MLB Network studios, because I have another mentor from MLB Network. So I'm just gonna go meet them, shadow them, learn from them, and just make my presence known, so they know that I want to do this for a living. So
and how were you able to get these these mentorships?
The people I met them was through social media. That's the good thing about social media nowadays, because you can reach people like nothing, And there was one time I sent a message to this guy. My first mentor at ESPN was Phil Murphy. And it was Phil Murphy. He's a believer also in Jesus, and we're like, this is pretty cool. So I sent him a message, and he replied to me like a week later, I think it was. And I already given up. I was like, okay, he didn't answer in a week, so I guess he doesn't want to talk to me, because I would send tweets, messages to like hundreds of sportscasters just to see if they would reply to me. And he was like, hey, sorry for the late response. Here are the answers to the questions. And he would give me his advice. And then one time we were talking during the Christmas time. I was like, hey, is it possible if I ever make it out of Bristol, can I get a tour of the ESPN studios and just learn from you and stuff like that? Like, yeah, bro, let me know when you want to come and we'll make it happen. And I was like, damn, that's pretty cool. So back in December, he said, yeah, you can come. Just let me know when. And I started planning it, and like I knew the spring semester was going to come up. So I was like, you know what, I'm going to do it in the summer. So I set the date for July 16, and I bought the ticket in January. And like I was like, okay, I still have 6 months to go to get to Bristol. And now we're in July, and it's a week and a half away. I'm like, I'm really excited for it.
Damn, it's really crazy. It's crazy.
So yeah.
So what are your plans when you go to ASC? Are you gonna keep doing the Alta? Or?
Yeah, what I'm gonna try to do with the Alta is gonna become my personal brand. So it's gonna be like the Dan Patrick Show, the Herd with Colin Cowherd, kind of like do the same thing, making my own thing, and just still show some support to the Valley. And I'm gonna be 4 hours away, so like get like at least small interviews from players here or coaches or whatever, just to show that I still remember where I'm from, because the Valley has given so much to me. I've met some tremendous people that have been just supporting me and showing love and about my dream that I want to accomplish. But I do have a goal that later on in my career, Lord willing, I could do this. That since I know there's not a lot of sports broadcasting opportunities here, I want to start a sports broadcasting radio station or TV network here in the Valley, because it needs it, because there's a lot of talent here and people don't know about it. There's a lot of talent here that could be used in somewhere else. And that's a goal I have. Like I want to call it the Alta Sports Network. If it's a radio or TV, hopefully I can make it happen for the Valley. That's kind of be like a way I want to give back and start my own business here in the Valley. So.
Do you think that because of technology now, like YouTube, Facebook Live, all these social media things that we have now that weren't available like when I was growing up, do you think that it's giving you a better opportunity to like kind of like accomplish your dreams?
Of course. I remember I was listening to a podcast called The Big Swing, and Joe Davis was my mentor I was talking about. He was the guest on that one, and I would hear him say like, no, when I was growing up, I would get a tape recorder and just call a game like that. And I was like, oh, well, I don't need a tape recorder. I have my iPhone. I could do the iPhone and just record myself doing it there. And like I said earlier, social media has been a great part of my career, because that's how I met Joe. Send him a message through Facebook. That's how I met Phil Murphy from ESPN. I sent him a message through Instagram. And I have met people like the old-fashioned way, like I see him at press conferences, or I just meet him out of the blue. Like David Faitelson, I met him at the press conference. So it's still kind of cool when you see people like out of the blue that you weren't expecting. Because I remember when I saw him at the press conference, I was just starstruck, bro. That was like the first time I've ever been super starstruck, because I grew up watching that guy, like in ESPN Deportes, and I just grew up watching him. And when I saw him, I thank God that he didn't see me when I saw him for the first time, because I was just chilling with Jose, my friend that was a public relations for Andy. Like, hey, well, thank you for letting me be here. And I turn around and I see this big guy with curly hair, and like I recognize how he was built. And I just opened my eyes so wide, and my mouth was like open and my hands were in my head. I was like, bro, no freaking way, he's here. And I was just going nuts. I was like, I said, I was being so starstruck, and I was like, you know what, I need to present myself to him. And I did present myself to him, and I told him, hey, you know what, my dream is to be where you're at. Honestly, it's my dream. And he gave me his business card, he gave me his phone number, his WhatsApp, and his email, and said, if you ever need anything like support or anything at all with the job, let me know and I'll help you out.
Wow,
and he
crazy.
even told me, like, if you want to go to Mexico City, let me know and we'll work it out too. So the ESPN studios in Mexico is another option. So, and the cool thing about it that he told me is that he lives in San Diego.
Okay.
And he flies every Wednesday from Tijuana to Mexico City to do the shows for ESPN. I was like, that's nice. You know, he's like 2 hours away from me, but he flies every Wednesday to Mexico.
Yeah, I mean,
to do the shows.
you don't really have to go to. I mean, it'll be nice to go to Mexico and see the.
Yeah, and I have family there that I've never met, so it'd be nice to go meet them at the same time. Make it kind of like a business trip. That's what I forgot to say, that this trip to Bristol, that I do see it as a vacation, or as a, I don't say luxury, but just as a fun vacation. But at the same time, it's a business trip, in my opinion, because since I'm in college, I'm transferred to the university. I see it as a big step or a big opportunity for people to know who I am and what I want to do and how much I want it to. How much I want the dream to be accomplished. So that's why I see that trip to Bristol so importantly. And now if I go to Mexico City with David, it will be another great opportunity as well. Even like in Mexico, our local guy that lives in that, well, he works for ESPN too, Sergio Deep. It would be nice to potentially work with him. I met him once and I tried to do the same thing, get advice from him, and he just left me on red. And I was like, oh, that sucks. But you know what? But hopefully one day we could work together and we could say, hey, Cachanillas, we're working together, and Valley people, we're working together in a big platform. Because also Mexicali is a big part of who I am today too.
You were talking about, being starstruck. Yeah, the only time I met, there's this guy that I follow on YouTube. It's called Philip DeFranco. I don't know if you
you told me about that. You told me about him. I saw
and
his videos sometimes.
When I saw him, I was like, whoa, like I have it on video, and I was like so starstruck that I was like, I didn't know what to say.
Yeah.
And then I didn't even like dummy me, like I didn't even get a picture with him. I was like, oh yeah, like. Yeah,
like when I saw him, I was like, dang, like what do I say? How do I say it? How do I do this? Like I don't know. And I just said, Señor Faitelson, like with obviously you have to see him Mr. because like for respect. Like Señor Faitelson, me llamo Marco Peralta y la verdad es un honor conocerlo. That's what I told him. And I said, hey, is it possible to talk to you for a quick second? He was like, yeah, let's do it later because I'm going to do the interview with Andy. So he did the interview. And after that, he's like, oh, okay, here's my business card. Let me know if you need anything. I'm here for you. I'm like, dang. It was just amazing because he's a big name in ESPN in Mexico. And like for a big name to say that to me, I was like, yo, this is pretty cool. This is pretty cool.
Badass.
So, yeah.
So was he somebody that you like as a kid that you were like, oh, I want to be like him, or like, is there any podcaster that
growing up, I didn't have cable. I had the antenna like a lot of people had, so I watched a lot of TV Azteca, Cristian Martinoli, if anyone knows that name, also Televisa, Pero Bermudez, Paco Villa, all those guys I would grow up watching. But when my dad was deported to Mexicali, he got the cable. I don't want to say that word. He got cable, and I said, like, hey, it's pretty cool. ESPN's on there, and I knew about ESPN ever since I was little. And like, I'm gonna watch ESPN, and the big thing about ESPN Mexico is soccer. So he's a big soccer guy there, and I will see him, Jose Ramon Fernandez, Jorge Eduardo Sanchez. I would just see them and watch SportsCenter every day, or just watch their sports shows. Even my dad was tired one time because he's a soccer guy too, but not as strong as me, I guess you could say. And every time I would leave the room, I would leave ESPN on. It was like, hey, ya cámbiala eso, no manches, no me dejes eso. And I was like, es que a mí me gusta y pues te gusta el fútbol, pues se lo dejo a ti también, you know? And David Faitelson was always on there, and like I said, Jose Ramon Fernandez, he was there too. So they were big reasons why I want to get into the business as well, because how they're their name is renowned in the company and in the broadcast business, and just they're living the dream. You know, like one of the key reasons I want to be a sports broadcaster is obviously you're in the action, of course, but the chance of being part of history makes it even better, because you can show up to the ballpark one day and it's an average game, like in a baseball game. Okay, the Dodgers win 3-0 or whatever, but maybe the next day you go, someone throws a perfect game and you did the call. Yeah. You know, and I'm like, man, I can't believe I was part of it, you know? Yeah. And it's gonna be remembered for the rest of my life. You know, it's gonna be something special, because it's different from you're there in the stadium watching it, but you're behind the mic. It's a huge responsibility, but at the same time it's a lot of fun. You know, it's really great. It's crazy. You know.
Well, was there anything else that because we're almost at an hour, so anything else?
Yeah, like it was funny. We were talking, like, I asked you, what was like the average time you do, like 35, 45 minutes, and you say it was an hour. It's like, dang, that's time flies. You know?
Yeah. A lot of people that are like really hesitant of doing it, they're like, oh, I don't know if I can talk for like 30 minutes. And then when I tell them, like, you know what, we've been talking for like freaking an hour and 10. Like, oh, what, really?
Yeah, when you, like what I said, when you're having fun, time flies. You know, and like it's just been a lot of fun, and I just appreciate you, because like at the same time, I asked you for some advice when we first met, and because I saw you started that little Facebook group of the Peralta podcasters and stuff like that, and that's because of Calvin. That's when I saw it, and I got to meet you. So yeah, just thankful for you. I got to meet you, and now for the first time I'm a guest on something, you know, and it feels pretty cool, because I'm usually the one doing the interview or doing the sports talk, but it feels nice to be able to share my story with the Valley, and like and yeah, just hopefully, Lord willing, I accomplish my goals, and I leave to Arizona State University in August. I'm going to join the Walter Cronkite School of Journalism. It's a big school here in the United States. It's one of the top broadcasting schools. And I have my trip to Bristol in a week and a half, and we'll see what the Lord has in store. And hopefully I'm able to get to where I want to be, at the same time represent the Valley in a big way, and hopefully, like I said before, give back to the Valley and starting that business that I want to, and we'll see what happens, Lord willing. Yeah, and that's why I wanted to get you before all these things happen, because I was like, man, if this guy hits big, like, I'm never gonna get him on my show, but at least no. If I ever make it big time, if that's the plan, I'm never gonna forget where I'm from, because this is home. You know, this is home. It's always gonna be my home, even if I move somewhere else, like going to Bristol, Texas, Florida, whatever. The Valley is always gonna be my home, no matter what, because family's here. A lot of my friendships are here. My best friend lives here. You know, so Valley is always gonna be part of my life, no matter what. So if people from the Valley want to get some advice from me when I make it up, or I'm still aspiring to be, I'm always going to let them know, like, hey, this is what I did, this is what you can do, and stuff like that. If I make it big time and you're still podcasting and you want to do a show, I'm still going to, like, hey, when do you want to do it? You know, because like you never have to forget where you're from and where'd you get your start. You know?
And I think something that I admire that I didn't know till today was that you know, you're not afraid of, you know, seeking advice, like. And because a lot of times, like for me, like, you know, I'll look up to somebody and I'm like, yeah, I'm never gonna meet them, or they're never gonna pay attention to me. But like hearing all these things that you've done, where you've reached out to like all these big names, and you know, you've gotten their attention, and I mean, it's something that, you know, a lot of us think of doing, but we're like, nah, they're never gonna, you know.
Well, the thing I would tell, the advice I would give to people that want to get into the broadcasting business, or any business in general, that you have to have initiative. You have to have the initiative to do something, because if you don't have it, you're not going to get to where you want to be. You have to have that hunger, that desire to get to where you want to be, and do everything possible to get there. Because what's the worst thing they could tell you? No. You know, as long as they're not going to curse you out or anything like that. If they do curse you out, that's pretty messed up on their part. But averagely they're going to say no. But when, like how I said, when God closes a door, He opens a window. You know, so if I couldn't get it through Him, I'm gonna get it through another way. You know, like I said, I messaged Stephen A. Smith, who's a big name in ESPN. He does First Take, and I messaged him. He didn't answer. I messaged another one, and the other one did answer. So that's another mentor that I met, that's gonna help me hopefully get to where I want to be. You know, and I always pray, like, God, if this is your will, let it be done. Please put the people that I need, or that you want me to learn from, to get to where I want to be. So I feel all the people I've met so far and the people that I'm gonna meet are just blessings sent from God. So yeah, all the glory goes to Him.
Awesome, man. Awesome. Yeah, it's really inspiring that to hear you talk about how you've gone through this point. It's crazy. Like I would have never.
Yeah, and like it's I know we're getting a little bit over time, but just share this really quickly. So yeah, like growing up, it was a really tough childhood. Like I said, my dad was going through cancer when I was in high school. My dad was deported to Mexicali, and my mom she's my rock. She's my number one fan, my best friend, because of everything she's done for me. She's just been amazing. My sister, she lives in San Francisco. She left when I was in middle school, so it was a pretty tough childhood because we had some financial instability. My dad's health, of course, that he's still going through. So it's really tough because I would always feel depressed because, like, you know what, everything's like going down the hole. It's going down the, I don't want to say like a bad word or anything like that, but it's just didn't seem like it was working out for me. And I was like, you know what, I'm giving up on life, But then the Lord came into my life and all these opportunities are coming out. And I was like, you know what? There is hope and there is a dream that I've had since I was a kid that I want to accomplish, and I feel like I am going to accomplish it. So it's coming from like that backstory of like my dad going through health issues, financial issues, my mom working extra to pay 2 houses, the one here in Mexicali, and my sister leaving to San Francisco to be with her husband. It was tough because I was alone a lot, and just seeing me giving up on life was not good.
Yeah.
And now that I'm getting to this business, I'm like, you know what, this is something that I think I could accomplish. So
yeah, and it's paying off, and
it is paying off. Thanks to the Lord, it's been paying off, and I'm just excited that whatever He has in store for me, I know it's going to be something very positive and very good, because God's will is perfect all the time.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Marcos, thank you for taking this time today and being on the podcast. Wish you nothing but the best. I mean, even though like you're already like doing this on your own, well, I mean, not on your own, but with all the blessings that you've gotten so far. I know that sky's the limit, and like in 5-10 years, I know you're gonna be. Yeah,
hopefully that's the plan. And just want to say thank you once again for having me on. Like I said, the first time I'm a guest on something, so it feels pretty cool to share my story. But yeah, I just want to tell the people from Calexico and the whole valley that I'm just a kid trying to pursue my dream. I'm just a young kid still trying to pursue. People say I'm good at it and that I'm gonna get far, but I'm like, I don't want to get ahead of myself. I'm just going to do whatever it takes to get to where I want to be. So, but yeah, once again, Jose, thank you so much. Thank you to Calexico Brewing Company for allowing me to be here with you to do the podcast. And just thank you to all the supporters that have been supporting me along the way. My mom, my dad, and my sister, my best friend, everyone that followed the Alta and just been loyal supporters and believers in my dream. So thank you to all. And like I said before, glory to the Most High and glory to God.
Awesome. All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for listening. Also, I forgot to do this at the beginning of the show, but I want to thank all the followers that I've been getting on Facebook. I'm almost at 1,000. So thank you to all the new followers. And don't forget to check out the Alta. And we'll see you guys.
I remember, like, before I close it out, I remember that when I first started the page, I would see like, I have like 5 likes now, right? Mm-hmm. It was like, you know what, this sucks. And right now I'm like at 850. I was like, man, it's grown a lot so far, you know? So people like what I'm doing, or they just like the content I'm putting out. So I get what you're saying. Like getting 1,000, it feels special, right? Yeah, it feels real nice. Like when I got 500, I was like, this is pretty cool. This is pretty cool.
Yeah.
You know?
So yeah, we're almost at 1,000. So we're like,
congrats, brother. Congrats.
Likewise. All right, guys. We'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.